Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. It is Charles from the channel Books on Stereo, and I'm here today to present you guys with a really exciting interview. I have the Erin Mallon on my channel right now. Yes, you heard that correctly. Audiobook narrator extraordinaire. If you haven't heard of Erin Mallon, I need you to kind of like reassess like what you're doing when you're listening to audiobooks. Like if you're listening to romance audiobooks, you have bound to have like listened to a book that was narrated by her. If you listen to any Lauren Blakely's books, you usually will find Erin Mallon there as well. So today we'll be talking about the natural history series that Erin has wrote. The first book is Flirtasaurus, and the second book is LoveBug, which will be coming out when this video is released on, I believe, February 24th.
That's right.
That's right. Okay. So without further ado, I'll let Erin introduce herself a little bit, and then we'll hop into some of my questions.
All right. Hi. Well, thank you for having me, Charles. This is very exciting for me. Hey, everybody. So I'm Erin. I've narrated, I think at this point, around 550 books, somewhere around there.
Wow.
Yeah, it's a lot of books. And I think about 75 to 80% of them are romance. Um, which is interesting. When I first started, I thought I'd be doing young adult books. That was sort of the plan. And my very first book was a young adult book, and the second was very much erotica. And then I still do that from time to time, but it's mostly romance now, and particularly romantic comedy, which I love. And I'm also a playwright, so I've been writing for theater for about 10 years. And this past year, like Charles said, I put out my first romantic comedy book, and number two is coming out this week. So
Yes, and the books are absolutely amazing. I love the audio. Like, it's like one of those books that's like maybe I should like I own the ebook of Flirtasaurus. I was like,
that's
oh, Erin Mallon wrote a book. I bought it, but I was like, wait, let me
aw,
listen to the audio instead. Like, there has to be an audio.
yeah.
I was like, it would be a shame. I would like message you and go like, where's the audio for this book? Like, you're an audiobook narrator, and you don't have an audiobook for your own book.
I mean, I really focused on the audio. First of all, people would be mad, I think, if I didn't
Mhm.
do that. And I think a lot of audio listeners, they get used to, for a lot of different reasons, they get used to having a delay. A book will come out, but the audio doesn't
Mhm.
come out for
Mhm.
a month sometimes. And there's
Mhm.
sometimes really good reasons for that. But being that I'm coming to this from the world of narration, I was like, I need to make that the priority. So they all release at the same time. Yeah.
I was so thankful for that because getting the audiobook dates out of like authors is like, is this going to be an audiobook? They're like, maybe
Yeah.
stay tuned. I was like, I want to read your book, but I'll be super mad if I read the book and then the audiobook comes out 3 months later. I'm
Yeah.
like, dang it.
And they don't mean to do that either. They want it to come out fast too, but I think sometimes authors forget how much planning it takes and how much cushion you need to build in there, because sometimes a narrator might get a cold, and then that's a week where they're not recording. Sometimes the platform ACX that a lot of people use for their distribution, there'll be some kind of glitch there and they can't. So it's rarely because they don't want it to come out. They want it to, but
They wanted to, but
a
just
lot of things.
Audible,
Yeah.
a lot of things getting in the way.
Yeah.
Yeah. So one of the first questions I have to ask you is like, what was your inspiration behind the natural history series? Like, what inspired you to like tell a romance set around a museum?
Well, I had started writing. My son was, I think he was around 4.5 at the time. He just turned 6. And I was starting to write a children's series with him. He was obsessed with dinosaurs. And this is a kid who he didn't talk very much as a little kid until he was like 18 months. He was saying like 2 or 3 words. And then he
Mhm.
discovered dinosaurs and his vocabulary exploded. Um, and so I read a ton of books. I became a bit of a dino expert along with my kid. There's a joke
That's
that goes
cool.
around: when are the times in your life when you know the most about dinosaurs? When you're 4, when you have your master's in paleontology, and when you have a 4-year-old.
Oh,
And the 4-year-old, you have more knowledge. They were joking that when you have your master's. Anyway, so I put the kids' book on hold because this idea came to me for a rom-com. And I grew up in the Philadelphia area and went to the Academy of Natural Sciences, is what the real museum is called, and the Franklin Institute,
mhm.
and loved going to those places. And I'd yet to narrate a book set in Philly in a museum setting, and I wanted to explore dinosaurs. So I
That's cool.
yeah, so we tried to find the fun and flirty and sexy in that. I think it's very sexy people in books and in real life who are passionate about each other for sure,
Mhm,
but equally passionate about the thing that they're pursuing in life. And
mhm.
when they have those two separate things they're passionate about and then they can bounce off each other, I think
Yeah.
that's exciting. So she's a paleontologist and he is an astronomer, and that bounces off each
And I don't want there's gonna be no spoilers in this
other.
whole interview, but it does get like I was like, I see you, Aaron. I was like, you put a little like the edge of the steam in there because I remember like the conflict that they have. And I was like, wait, what they did that? I was like, I can't believe they actually did that.
Well, you know what a lot of people say. It was my first book, so people that know me as a narrator didn't really know me as a writer at all, even though I'd been
Mhm.
writing for years. It was just all in the theater. So some people had said to me, I expected more sex from Erin Mallon. I was like, what? And my husband was like, me too. um, but I think because they're so used to hearing me narrate so many other
Mhm.
authors' work, and a lot of it is very steamy and a lot of sex scenes.
Mhm.
Um, and I think Flirtasaurus has like three, but
Yeah, I
they're
think so.
weird.
Yeah,
They're
yeah,
weird. They're not just straight up sex. They're weird. I
they're
wanted
weird.
comedy flowing throughout the sex scenes, so
Yeah.
we'll see.
And it really works really well in the book. I absolutely loved it. Especially I loved their meet cute in the
Oh,
beginning
thanks.
of Flirtasaurus with her being stuck in the elevator
Yeah,
and like him pushing all and she's pushing all the buttons and she's like, I don't think you're supposed to do that. But like, well, I didn't know.
yeah.
And like you sell it so well. And I just really love your narration, Flirtasaurus. I was like, this is like perfect. Like it gave me like Megan Quinn vibes,
Okay,
which
yeah,
like Megan was like a huge one of my favorite authors. So I was like, it's like really, really good rom com, like
yeah.
really good and something that I haven't seen before.
Nice, thank you. Yeah, it was true. I was when I was first writing, I was thinking, do I narrate this? Do I make it a multicast? Do I get one of my narrator friends to do it? And so I kind of just let that percolate as I was writing. Um, and like I do for my plays and theater, I really try to write. Well, I don't think I can help it really. Writing from a performance place, I try to write things that are active and fun. That if I were the performer, whether it's on stage or in a book, I would want to dive in and play that scene. Um, and so the more I wrote and the more fun I had, I was like, I want to play this scene. So I decided to narrate it because I know all the characters so well. I thought it would be a blast, and it was.
Yeah, and I also want to ask you, could you give a little synopsis for LoveBug? We talked a little bit about Flirtasaurus, but what is LoveBug? I know it involves, I don't even know what you would correctly call it, someone who studies bugs.
Entomology.
I was gonna say bugology,
I like
bugologist.
bugology.
But I was like, I don't think that's wrong. I think that's correct.
Yes. So Love Bug is book 2 in the natural history series. And there's going to be 3 interconnected standalones. So you don't have to read one to read the other. But I think you'd have fun if you read 1, 2, 3.
Mhm.
And so Mabel is who we follow in Love Bug. And she is a bug expert. She's young. She's just turned 24. And you meet her in Flirtasaurus.
Mhm.
She is someone who's kind of craving friendship and connection in a very strange way in Flirtasaurus.
Yeah.
And she's all kindness and love and light. Um, and I think that's very possible to be that kind of person in the world. I do think there's layers underneath people that you hide if all you ever see is kindness and joy. There's got to
Yeah.
be other stuff.
Mhm. Mhm.
So it was really fun setting it up in Flirtasaurus so that people are like, what is her deal? Um,
Yeah.
Yeah. And so she, in this book, she is head counselor at a summer camp, like a nature camp. And there's this mysterious guy who she thinks is the groundskeeper. His name is
Yeah.
Wallace. And I'm trying to make non sexy names sexy again. Ralph in book 1, Wally in book.
Wallace.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then, things happen between the two of them. And there's a lot of other things going on in her life
Mhm.
and mysteries in her family and her upbringing that get revealed throughout the book as well.
Yeah, and like that's like so interesting. When I was when I was listening to LoveBug, I was like, wait, like the character voices and just the plot. It seems like I already love Flirtasaurus, but like LoveBug was like a whole nother level. Like I had to create another star rating because I already gave Flirtasaurus a 5 out of 5.
Oh, thank you.
But then LoveBug, I was like, how do I rate this? I can't rate it like a 6. There's no 6 on Goodreads.
Oh, I love
Because I
that.
just loved it so much. The characters' voices were really like they were so fully formed. I just wanted to ask you, especially alongside the plot, did you find it easier this time around to like find Mabel's voice and Wallace's voice? And how did the plot kind of flow a little bit more? Was it a little bit easier, or did you already have the idea of where you want to go? Because there are a lot of plot twists
Yeah, there
in
are.
this book, and I was like, what? What? I was
Um,
like, what?
I wouldn't say it was easier, because the thing with Flirtasaurus was I kept that a secret. No one knew I was writing it. And I just kind of felt like, why not give it a go? Let's see if I can do this. I know I can write a play. I know I can narrate a romance book. Can I write and narrate a romance book? So it was my fun little secret. And I had a blast doing it. And then I kind of was like Beyonce dropping her album. And I just said,
Like,
hey, I wrote a book.
I
Boom.
wrote a book.
Yeah. And that was really fun to do. With the second book, people knew I was doing it, and people had questions about when it was coming out, and I felt the pressure in a different way, not in a bad way, um, but it was just different, and I'd learned a lot about, like, I think Flirtasaurus is a strong book. I think the audio may be stronger than the book itself, because I knew the characters enough that I could really play it in a fun way. I think LoveBug may be a stronger book. And then I had a great time narrating it as well. So, I mean, that's the plan. That's the hope, right? That you keep improving with every book. So I want each book to get more layered and fun and, you know. So, yeah, we're trying to evolve with each book.
Yeah, and like you definitely accomplished it. Like I'm not saying this lightly. Love Bug was like I absolutely loved it. I listened to it in one day. I
Oh,
guess I was like next chapter, next chapter. All my other books, I'm like I need to finish this one book because I'm just enjoying like the chemistry between the two main characters. I was like I'm living for it, and the reveals that happened, and then what was real with the heroines like what was it her family and all that situations. I was like, this is so good. This is so like I didn't expect it to have this many plot twists. I
very
was like,
cool.
if there was like no steam in it whatsoever, there is steam in it. But I
Yeah,
was like, I just enjoy the characters and the plot so much, and I feel like sometimes in rom coms, there's a tendency where you can go like too cartoonish, or
sure.
sometimes it just doesn't feel like real to life, or you just go more into like it's not really a rom com, it's just really like a steamy, more erotic read that's
Hmm.
kind of shelved into rom com. I
Yeah.
like that this one's like a really great rom com.
Well, that's what I love to work on when as a narrator, when I get a book that is funny and sexy and is weaving a good story, I'm just in heaven. So it's like, that's what I'm trying to do as a writer. And I feel like having narrated so many of them, I've been so lucky to see what I love out there, see what I would do differently, and that's been helping me hone my voice as I go. So I'm very grateful for all my years narrating and all the years ahead of me narrating because I'm always learning.
Yeah. And one interesting question, I think you already touched on it a little bit, was do you always think of like how the when you're writing when you wrote Flirtasaurus and Lovebug, were you always thinking how it was gonna work on audio? And did you use that to kind of like as a part of your editing process almost? Like to see if dialogue or some of the banter or some of like the descriptions, see if
Mhm.
that landed in audio and then you would go back and fix it in writing? Or how
Yeah.
did your audio performance factor into writing the books?
Well, so when you're in the theater, particularly when you're writing comedy, this is probably obvious. Playwrights don't love when you paraphrase their plays. So sometimes someone will miss a line and they have to paraphrase to keep the thing going. But sometimes people they paraphrase and it hurts us deeply. So and that really kills comedy because comedy writers, they've a lot of us they go right down to the punctuation that they want, which word is funnier to land on, what sound does a word create that gives an experience. So I'm very particular about that kind of thing. So yes, as I was writing, I would say it out loud sometimes. I'm like, no, it's better if you land on this word. And I need to punch this up with like exclamation points. So you'll see in the text, like it'll be all caps for a line. So even if you were reading it with your eyes and not your ears, you would know the kind of volume and the pace that's happening there. I try to capture that. And I will tell you, when you're narrating your own book, it is the best way to catch all the last minute edits. I can't say it out loud if it's wrong. And we catch authors' edits a lot. But this was particularly satisfying because I was the one that had the last pass after my editor, my beta readers and stuff. I caught a whole bunch of stuff. And then you feel good sending it off to print. So.
Yeah, I can imagine. Like, I was like just wondering because like some of the banter, like I would like you give like you really are good at humor, which I think a lot of narrators are not good at. Like you come off a little bit cheesy, and I just love how you're able to land all the jokes and all the like funny, witty dialogue, and your male voice is like really, really good. I was like wondering how did you like develop that because like it's like weird. Like sometimes like I like female narrators' voices when they go into the male voice, but sometimes it's like really too low. But like it's like the way you like just lower your pitch slightly. I was just wondering how did you kind of develop that? Did you like learn from other male narrators and kind of adapt to that to your own style?
So I get this question a bunch, and I think I know how to explain it now. You always want to come first and foremost from the character's perspective. So ideally, even if I didn't drop my voice vocally, if I'm coming from his perspective, I'm going to sound different. The cadence is going to be different. The rhythm, the tone, you're going to know it's him. So that's first and foremost. Then, if you can, as a narrator, find a gentle way to place your voice differently in your body. So I've noticed, someone told me this, and then I noticed when I do behind like booth videos, that something happens to my eyes when I'm a guy. Like my eyes get a little weird, so you know I'm in guy mode. So my body is shifting to become this other masculine, or that's not a word, version of myself. But I drop it, the voice is like warm in my chest and kind of rumbly. I keep my throat very open, and then play the character. Don't think too much about how I sound, but I know I'm also physically changing it. So I don't know. It's taken a while because in the beginning, people say, don't even try to sound like a gender that is not your own because people will never buy it. And it's good advice. But I think if you have time to explore and play and get some feedback, it's worth messing around with if you can do it in a way that's healthy for you and sounds good for the author and the listener. So, yeah.
And I have to ask this, like, can you give us any details about the third book? Like, when is it coming out? A little bit about the story, the setup. I'm really curious to get some more details. And can I get an audio arc of this book?
Oh, yeah. So I can't tell too much yet. I learned big lesson working on LoveBug is to not announce a release date until you know for sure you're going to release that. So I'm not sure. It will be this year. I'm thinking sometime in the summer. I started writing, but I also have another short surprise project that's coming out before that. So, but yeah, summertime. And it's called Shark Bait. And it is Louise's book. So Louise, you meet in both books. She is Ralph's sister in Flirtasaurus. She's always been a sister. But then you get to know her a bit more in LoveBug. She gets to spend more time with Mabel. She is a marine biologist, studying to be a marine biologist. And when you meet, I planted some seeds in LoveBug where you know she's struggling with some stuff. She seems really obsessed with dreams and the spiritual implications of animals, some stuff like that. And she's about to start an internship at an aquarium, the Philadelphia Aquarium, while she's getting her master's in marine biology. So she's going to be in school and doing the aquarium job at the same time. And James, who you met in LoveBug, the owner of Adventure Bar, he's like a real thrill seeker. He's a scuba diver. He's a mountain climber. He's going to be her fella.
Oh, that sounds like so, so good. I
Yeah.
hate to ask this question, but which one out of the three books was your favorite to write? And which one books that you enjoy? Like, if you were just like a purely like a fan reading the books, which book would you rank number one?
Well,
I'm
Shark,
really
it's
curious.
not written yet, so that remains to
But
be.
oh, yeah. But
Uh,
add the two books then.
yeah. LoveBug for sure. Uh, it really took me on a ride, and I'm really proud of it. And I was right. I had a baby as I was writing it, so I joke around that I've basically wrote it with one hand because he was always in my arms on one side
Oh my
as I was
goodness.
typing on the other. Um, so yeah, it feels personal, and I was going through a lot as I wrote it, and I think it's funny, and I love Mabel very much.
It's there's
She's
so
wonderful.
many scenes. I was just like, yes.
Yeah.
I was like, I was living throughout this whole entire audiobook. I was like, I love this so much. Like, I expected to be like at least as good as Flirtasaurus, but then I was like, how is this even better? Like, I
Oh,
was like, Erin, like, what have you done? Like, I'm obsessed. I need a third book. I need it now.
you'll get one, baby. You'll get one.
Okay. Like,
You
as soon as you let me know it's ready, I'll be like, okay, cancel all plans. Let's listen to this audiobook.
Well, that's what, just hearing you say that you spent the entire day. That is such a gift that you gave me because it just blows my mind that because life is busy and we've got a lot going on and times are weird and you spent an entire day in a world that I wrote and I feel like that's a beautiful, generous thing to do. So thank you.
Yeah, no
So
problem. Like,
cool.
thank you for like writing and narrating this book. I was like, I needed something fun and light with like just the right amount of steam
Mm,
and just something like different to kind of mix up my reading. Because like the beautiful thing about romance, there's so many books, but that's also like the worst thing is like what to actually choose what to
sure.
read next.
Yeah.
I was like, I never know what I'm looking for. And when I started listening to Love Book, I was like, I love this.
Oh, great.
And then I also wanted to touch on your plays that you have in audio as well a little bit. I listened to all three of them. It's Come Find Me, Skin
Skin hungry.
Skin Hungry, and then the Romantic Comedies, I
Yeah.
believe is the third one.
Yeah.
The Romantic Comedies, there were so many things in that one. I was like, I love this. Like the
Oh,
whole
good.
baby and like the baby nursing and the guys getting jealous.
Yeah, that one's really landed with people. I wasn't sure if I was going to include that one. It's called Baby Fight Club, um, but people have really enjoyed that, so I'm so glad I included it. Um, yeah, and did you listen to These Walls Can Talk? Have you heard that one yet?
Yes, that was oh yes, that's the one,
Like a satire of
the satire one about
and
narrating.
masculinity. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Oh yeah, I forgot that one. I think that one and then romantic comedies were tied as my two top faves, but I love them all. I thought you were singing in Come Find Me for a moment. I was like, is that Erin singing? Like the little what the ghost sings, Come Find
Oh
Me.
no, those I was in that. I was the daughter of the older woman in the flash forward scenes. Yeah, but no, that was Therese Plummer. That's she
Really?
yeah, because she played Margot. And so that was her doing the Come Find Me, the spooky thing through the walls.
Spooky. I like heard that. I was like, wait, is that Erin? Like, hold on, let me double check. I wasn't completely sure, but are there any more plays coming from you?
Yes.
The one bonus project you mentioned, but are there any others that we can look forward to?
The bonus project is something I will announce soon, but yes, we
Okay.
just I haven't announced it yet, but I have a play. It's called Branched, and it's actually the first play I ever wrote, the first full-length play I ever wrote,
Mhm.
and just recorded it with an awesome cast, which I'll announce soon. And it should be coming out at the very end of March. So LoveBug will come out the end of this month, and then at the end of March, this play, which wait till you hear the cast and the kinds of roles they're playing. It's kind of bonkers. It's very absurdist comedy. This one, it's very
Okay.
absurd. So I have there's a lot of cool visuals in it that when it was produced in New York, it's very important. Like there was a puppeteer, there was all kinds of stuff. Um, we don't have that visual in audio, so I have an
Mhm.
amazing sound effects guy and editor, and they're kind of taking that over. They're creating all the sound effects so you can use your imagination for the weird stuff you would be seeing. So you're gonna hear
That
it.
is so cool.
Yeah, it'll be
That
fun.
is so, so cool. And just kind of switching gears, I just want to get to know you as a narrator a little bit more.
Sure.
And how did you actually get into narrating audiobooks and then specifically romance?
Well, I started as an actor in the theater. I was on stage all the time. Um, and then I started doing some commercials for voiceover. I did TV commercials and radio spots. I was the voice of EpiPen, and I used to do a lot of pharmaceutical commercials, like the end where they have the soft, rapid speaking about all the ways that this
Hmm.
can hurt you. I used
Yeah.
to do a lot of those.
Oh.
And, I just knew I wanted to try audiobooks. The idea of getting to tell a story for 8 hours or so, playing all the characters, doing all the accents, all the rules, no matter what you look like, or how old
Mhm.
you are, or your gender, is just very exciting to me. So a friend of mine was already in the business, and I was teaching yoga at the time, to make money on the
Mhm.
side of acting. And so I started giving my friend private yoga lessons, and she started giving me behind the mic lessons about narration. And then she helped me get my first audition at Audible. Um, and then one thing led to the next, and work kind of begets work.
Mhm.
Authors, if they're happy with you, they will tell their author friends, and listeners will tell the authors who they want to hear more of. Um, and romance just happened. Um, in a great way, and I'm thrilled it did because it's one of my favorite things to do. So,
And
yeah.
like, I'm so happy that you narrate. Like, there's like a select few of like narrators like Andy Arndt, Shane East, Jacob Morgan, Teddy Hamilton, Savannah Peachwood. That if I see they narrate a book, I'm like, okay, I don't even need to listen to a sample. Like, I
Oh,
already know I'm going to like the narration. May not love the book, but I know I will love their narration.
that's nice.
Yeah.
That's
And
cool.
then another question that I had for you is there any preferred types of audiobooks that you like to do, like the dual narration, the full cast, or the duet narration?
It all has its place and it's all great. Multicasts are really fun, especially right now where we can't be together to connect with other people. We'll connect by Zoom usually, so I'll hear them in my headphones, and then we all record on our separate um,
Mhm.
our separate systems, and then you get an amazing editor that makes it sound like you're all in the same room. But to be able to bounce off of each other and really, it feels theatrical. It feels like we're on stage again. So I do love that. I also like the solitary nature of narrating and how I can put my kids to bed and then work from home in my
Mhm.
pajamas. It's lovely. Um, so it's all great. It's all great. I'm glad it all exists and that I can shift between the different modes is cool.
Yeah, that's really cool. I was like, I'm always curious because I feel like full cast is starting to catch on a little bit more and more and more in romance, especially with Lauren Blakely. I feel like
Hmm.
all of her audiobooks are like just like next level in terms of like production. Like one of the few romance authors out there that are
Yeah.
like especially that are not narrators that are like doing these multicast, these huge production audiobooks. I'm like where like each character has a different narrator. I was like I'm loving everything
Oh,
that's
good.
happening in audiobooks right now.
Yeah, Lauren's amazing. She always is innovating, figuring out new ways, new exciting ways to do things. She loves narrators and actors. Obviously, she loves writing, and she's great at it. So she's super creative. She wants to be a part of the whole process. It's not like wrote a
Amazing.
book, done. She's very much the person that drives it.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And do you see more authors nowadays like writing towards specific narrators? Like if you already have worked with a narrator, would they say like, "Hey, I wrote this book with like you in mind to narrate it"?
They do that. Yeah, they
Yeah.
do. Um, some do, some don't. But I think most authors are seeing what a big business audio is, and to leave that out, well, they're leaving money on the table, and they're leaving a whole world of listeners that are only
Mhm.
taking things in by audio
The
now.
audio.
So
Mhm.
yeah. But it always is a treat when an author says, "I have you in my mind." Well, Lauren actually, so I just did a book with her called The Virgin Rule Book, and she she said she was thinking of me and Teddy Hamilton as she was writing, and then so she proofed it the other day. She listened to what we did, and she's like, "I forgot that I was writing like the way you talk." She calls people friend because I do that. I'll be like, "Oh, thanks, friend," and the character does that. Um, and I said to her, "That's interesting because I did feel very much at home in this book and
Mhm.
in the language. I loved playing this character. She was easy for me, and it didn't feel like work ever. And I also know Lauren's writing and her style and sensibility, so it feels comfortable to me too. It's like coming
Yeah.
home when I get to work on one of her books.
Yeah, I just listened to her most recent release, My One Week Husband, where you played the best friend,
So it's
and then you
that
had like the little.
character. She gets
Oh,
her own book
okay.
in the Virgin Rule Book.
Yes.
Yeah.
I was like, you have Erin Mallon in this book. Like, there has to be a spin-off where like she
Aw.
has her own book as this character. Like, it would be criminal. I'll be writing Lauren like, hey, I need a book. I need another book with Erin, like narrating as a lead character. Like, it was nice being a side character, but now I need Nadia's story.
Yeah, it's a great story
Yeah.
too. I really liked that one. And I always love working with Teddy. He's one of my pals. So,
Yeah. And then another question I had for you is like, how long does it typically take to record? Like, you're like, I would say like normal, like probably 8 to 9 hours is usually where a lot of romances tend to clock in. How long does it typically take for you to record and send it off to edits?
well, the industry standard, what you're shooting for usually, if you want to be efficient, is 2 hours to every hour. So if it's 8 hours, it probably took about 16. And you sometimes it takes less, sometimes it takes more, but that's what you shoot for to know that you're not wasting anyone's time. And the stops are the misreads, the water breaks, the I forgot to look up this thing that I should have looked up yesterday, uh, that sort of thing. Um, yeah, and just needing it's actually weirdly taxing. Like I'm in my booth right now. It's not
Mhm.
taxing, but you have to stay really tremendously still when you narrate. Because actually, I just joined TikTok. I've resisted it, but I just
Yeah.
joined and I did my first video today. And it's about do's and don'ts of your first narrating session.
Mhm.
And one thing people don't even realize is what you wear is incredibly
Oh,
important.
really?
Because if I wear a noisy sweater that day, you don't even know your clothes are noisy until you try to narrate in them. And you're like, oh, I wore a noisy one. Every time I turn my neck, it brushes here and the microphone picks it up. Um, yeah, so you need to wear very soft, noiseless clothing. And you have to sit very tall and so you can breathe. And you might gesticulate a little bit, but you can't.
Yeah.
I remember one time I was in it was in Manhattan. I was in a studio, and Neil Patrick Harris was there, and he was in the other booth, and I listened to his book
Mhm.
afterward, and it was amazing. And there was a window in these booths where I could look in and see his back, and I was going to my lunch break, and he was in there working, and he was moving so much. I was like, this book is going to be awesome, and they're going to have a lot of editing to do because there's going to be some noise, but sometimes it's just worth it to get that kind of performance. Um,
Yeah.
yeah.
Oh, that's really cool. I like that's a great segue into my next question. I really am curious. Like, have there been any funny stories that you have like or funny experiences that you had like while narrating an audiobook or like just yeah, just like when narrating an audiobook? Like I know sometimes you hear the bloopers sometimes in
I
some
love
audiobooks. I was
bloopers.
like, was there any like just like really funny instance where something you misread something or someone missaid something and you just couldn't you just had to laugh?
Oh yeah, that happens a lot when you're working with other people. When you're working alone, you don't tend to laugh. I'll do a very funny book, but think about it. You don't really laugh by yourself
That's true.
out loud. Like you
Yeah.
have like a funny experience internally, but so I don't know about that, but I remember one time I was doing a duet book. It was one of my first ones. It was years ago. It was called Final Duty, Duty. And it was this sci-fi thing. And I was working with a friend of mine, and we worked through the whole book, and there was really serious parts at the end where they kept saying over again, like, it was his final duty. And the way he couldn't get over it because he heard like duty, like poop. And every time he's like, I'm trying to be serious. But every time I said, he's like, duty. And then he just like laughed his ass off. And it got to the point where he was laughing so much, he started to feel really bad because he's like, I know I'm wasting everyone's time, but he couldn't get it together. There was another time I was working on a book and the engineer was new. This is at a studio where I actually had someone working across from me, engineering. And it was a romance. And the heroine kept referring to her lady parts as her beaver. And this was pretty consistent. And every time I said it, he's a panel of glass between us, but I could sense him tensing up like he was shy about this. But I'd already done enough books that I'm not shy about anything. And on a little break, he says, is she going to keep calling it her beaver? I'm like, she is. So
get ready.
Yeah. And he loosened up by the end, but he had a real hard time with that. So you can't be self-conscious with this work.
Yeah. And does a follow-up question, does like sometimes you have to build, like if you're doing like a dual narration, do you have to like build that chemistry with the male narrator, or is it pretty easy just kind of just read the lines and kind of bounce off each other? Do you like how do you kind of go about the process, especially for the steamier scenes?
Yeah, I remember, I won't name names. I was working with a well-known male narrator who I love, is a dear friend of mine. And it was the first time that we'd ever done a duet. And I was in my booth and he was in his booth. And so we were doing all the sex scenes and everything. And I was having a great time. And I think he was too. At the end, he's like, that was a little weird for a little while there. I've never said those things with anyone other than my wife. Because like he narrates all the time these kind of scenes, but he was never saying it to another woman, except for someone that he's actually in a relationship with. Yeah, so it was funny. I wasn't even thinking that he could possibly be uncomfortable, but we're humans and we all have feelings and weirdnesses. And so you don't have to build chemistry, but you have to get comfortable. And thankfully, I've been doing this long enough and working with the similar guys over and over again that none of us are shy about it anymore. And we can laugh about it. We can do this crazy sex scene together and then just be like, yo, buddy, like it's not weird for us anymore.
Okay, I was like super curious because like in some books I'm like it can get pretty steamy. I was like, I would like if I was narrating to like someone else, I'd be like, just like I couldn't keep a straight face.
Well, sometimes I do. Well, pre-COVID times, I was doing about, I'd say 70% of my work from my home studio, and then I go in and out of the city. Now it's all home. So my husband will be out in the living room with the kids, and it's all like wholesome. There's babies laying around, and then I come out. I'm like, whoo, you have no idea what I just did in there. And usually I'll have to tell them. He's like, wow, you're having a day in there. I'm like, yeah. So sometimes I have to come out and share what I've just done.
That's so cool.
But
that is so cool. As a final, just kind of like a really light question, what are your top 3 TV shows / movies that you're currently watching or you have watched recently?
Honestly, I don't watch too much because if I'm not parenting or narrating or writing, I'm getting rare sleep. But This Is Us is my show.
Oh,
yeah,
that's a good
it's so
show.
funny because I'm so into comedy as a writer and performer. But give me that sad, beautiful stuff. I love This Is Us. I almost always catch SNL. And we've just started to get into Schitt's Creek because everyone's been saying we got to. Everyone says the same thing, that get through the first bunch of episodes and then it turns into something else entirely where people's worlds are being rocked by the show. So I'm enjoying it, but I'm looking forward to the world rocking. We'll see what happens.
It's really good. I haven't finished the whole series, but it gets even better as you go on, which is like rare. Like it's like this weird show that you don't think will work, but it's so funny. Like the kids are hilarious, the parents are hilarious, the town people that you get to interact with. I absolutely love the show.
Well, and I love that David, right? I love that the actor is also the writer. I love that. And I love that he's working with his real life dad. There's so many layers to it that excite me.
Yeah, I was like, oh, that's so rare that like you have the son writing the show, and the son's like, hey, dad, you want to play my dad in this TV show?
Yeah, it's really cool.
Yeah. And then final question I have to ask because this is an audio, like your audiobook narrator. What audiobook, if you are currently listening to an audiobook, would you recommend to everyone to go check out? It could be either from you or from any one of your audiobook narrator peers.
So something I've listened to that I'd recommend.
Mhm,
Um, this may sound strange, but I primarily listen to nonfiction. Yeah, and I think
mhm,
it's because my world is fiction. I'm
mhm,
constantly reading a book to prep it. I'm in the booth working on it. I'm writing fiction. So I usually want to feel like I'm learning in
mhm.
in a nonfiction-y kind of way. So one book that I love, love, love is called Big Magic by Elizabeth Gilbert.
Oh,
Um,
mhm,
yeah, it's all about creativity, and the things she says, I think, really liberate artists and writers and people who want to create, because the thing she's not the first to say things like this, but the way she
mhm,
says it is so wonderful, just about what genius is, that we are not geniuses, but we have a genius that
mhm,
visits us,
mhm,
and ideas are alive and they visit us, and we can choose to partner with them or not. I think it takes the pressure off of, oh, I must create something wonderful. It's like I'm
mhm,
just partnering with the energy that's all around me, because there's ideas and energy everywhere. And I love that collaboration with the world. So that book, I think if you're looking to make things, you owe it to
mhm.
yourself just to listen to it. It's very encouraging.
Oh, that's great. I heard of the book, but I haven't listened to it. Like
Yeah.
I'm like primarily like pretty much like stuck in my romance camp. But I'm trying this year to like branch out and like, kind of like incorporate some other genres back into my kind of repertoire because I have read some really great books that were not romance. I was like, I kind of missed that. So like let's incorporate that back in a little bit more.
For sure.
Yeah. But thank you so much, Erin, for joining me on my channel. Like we said, LoveBug is out today, so go pick it up. It's available in ebook, paperback, I believe, as well,
Yeah.
and then audiobook as well. I highly recommend the audio, and then you go buy the ebook or you can buy both and get that Whisper Sync discount on Amazon. Definitely go check out Flirtasaurus. Go check out all of Erin's plays. They're all amazing. Like you guys should definitely go check her out and support her as an author. I love both of her books. I gave them both 5 out of 5 stars. And yeah, I will catch you guys with a brand new video, and I'll link all of Erin's social media and all her links down in the description box down below. All right,
Thank you.
bye.